Visit smokefree.ne.gov. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
My name is Rebecca. I struggled with depression for years. I also smoked. That was my world. Finally, I realized that smoking wasn't helping me. It was making my life worse. So I took control and I quit. Now I'm able to run again and take walks with my grandkids. My tip is there's another world out there, and it's a beautiful place to be.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Turning my pain into purpose is pretty much what I have done to start this foundation.
In August 2020, after the death of George Floyd, Bridget Floyd and other family members established the George Floyd Memorial Foundation in support of the Black community.
It's going to take more than just us as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to make a change.
Fight for racial justice for the Black community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Into the building for the first time after the shooting. It was crippling, but it had to be preserved.
In response to the Pulse nightclub shooting that affected the LGBTQ community, Barbara Poma, owner of Pulse, founded the One Pulse Foundation to honor Pulse victims and survivors.
If you're an ally of this community, speak out. There are more of us together than apart. It is the power of love in its rawest form.
Join the fight for LGBTQ acceptance. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, call 988 for free, confidential, and compassionate support. On July 16th, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is transitioning to 988. There is hope. For 24/7 support, call, text, or chat 988.
Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is Sunday Rewind on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Now, here are your hosts, Tom Stevens and Mike Melby.
Welcome in. Tom Stevens here, Mike Melby there. Together we do the Sunday Husker Rewind. It's Sunday. We like to rewind it, start from the very beginning of the week, and then review everything that happened. How are you, Mike Melby?
Doing good, Tom Stevens. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little tense right now. The Vikings are playing a playoff game against the Giants, and I was pretty much sure that they were going to lose. Actually, the Giants were really the sexy pick this week, even though the Vikings, I think, are a 3-point favorite going in. Of course, the Vikings go 78 yards, opening kickoff, lead 7-0. They now trail 17-7.
Little tense. I didn't know you like camping. Sorry, that's an old one. It's not even a good.
Are you tense at all, knowing that your Cowboys and Dak Prescott is like 7 straight games with interceptions?
I don't like Dak Prescott as the Cowboys quarterback. I wish he was not.
But you didn't like Romo either.
I loved Romo.
Did you really?
Oh, absolutely.
See, my brother is the opposite. He hated Tony Romo and he likes Dak. And I'm going, I don't know why. Vikings just scored, by the way. Nice. I'm not sure why Romo took so much garbage, but he always did. And I think it was because he played on some really crappy teams.
He did.
If he would have played on this team, they'd be really, really good.
Yeah, the one caveat was they had to kick, was it a field goal or an extra point to win against Seattle back in the early 2000s in the playoffs. And when you looked at the ball, it looked like it had just been soaked in a vat of Vaseline. And they snap it back to him, and the ball goes through his fingers, and the Cowboys lose the game. Whatever. And I know that was always a big sticking point. And I'm like, whatever, one play. Look at the way I love listening to him and the way he digests pre-snap and explains things. It's one of those where I always have wanted to sit down with a former player and have them watch a game, like just a quarter, and have them say, okay, right here, this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking, if I'm the quarterback or if I'm the receiver, and explain what, more in depth, because we watch games and
we need to sit down with somebody like Jay Foreman or a quarterback. I mean, Joe Gans. Good. Let's get Joe Gans in here for a game. That'd be fun.
Just have him hang out with us.
By the way, I'm wearing a Vikings jersey. You're wearing a Cowboys jersey. It makes me think of the worst. For some reason, I always go to the negative. Worst trade ever made. The Vikings trade for Herschel Walker, and you guys end up with Emmitt Smith and like 3 other.
Michael Irvin.
Yeah, Michael Irvin. And, of course, win 3 Super Bowls out of the deal. The Vikings still have not won a Super Bowl. And they're not going to win one this year. That defense just isn't good enough, although they did score. It is time for the starting gate. We get to the starting gate at the top of each and every show with Mike Melby, and he reviews the week. It's the week in review, basically, a Husker Rewind.
Yeah, and on behalf of all the Cowboys fans across the world, thank you again for those 3 Super Bowls. Last Monday night,
you're welcome.
Georgia won their second consecutive national title with a 65-57 demolition of Texas Christian University. The 58-point margin is the largest ever in the history of college football bowl games. Who would win between the 21-22 and 22-23, whatever, Georgia Bulldogs and the 94-95, 95-96 Nebraska Cornhuskers?
Oh, Nebraska. They just scored again. That would be a fun game to watch. I think Georgia's defense may be slightly better than Nebraska.
Yeah, Nebraska only had 17 guys on the 2 deep on the defensive side that went to the NFL.
That's right. Georgia, by the way, that victory.
Georgia may have 18, but
the largest margin of victory, of any bowl game ever.
Over
that's crazy.
1,500 bowl games. Now, tough news this morning out of Athens, Georgia. Georgia offensive lineman Devin Willick and recruiting staffer Chandler LaCroix were killed in a single-car accident around 2:45 this morning.
Awful.
LaCroix was driving a 2021 Ford Expedition that left the roadway, struck a couple of power poles, several trees. Willick died at the scene. LaCroix died later at the hospital. 2 other players and another female passenger were in the car. All are currently in the hospital. The 2 players are stable. The other female that was in the car is in serious condition, but all of them are expected to recover. So horrible news out of Athens, Georgia. And this is after they celebrated and had the big parade and everything else yesterday. So tough news out of Georgia. Husker basketball blown out at home last Tuesday night by Illinois, 76-50.
I was there.
In one of the most poorly officiated games that I can remember.
24 fouls in the first half.
Yeah, and it's the same. There's one referee. I looked his name up, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to throw him.
You rarely see Hoiberg say anything about anything. Related to officiating. He's not a complainer.
No.
He's not he rarely gets a technical. He rarely complains at the post game. But that first foul on Derek Walker really made him mad.
Oh, yeah. He didn't even touch the guy.
No.
The guy stumbled trying to avoid Walker, who was, running. He had went to set a pick and then started moving, and the guy stumbled. No contact whatsoever, and they called the foul. But there's one referee. Of those 24 fouls in the first half, I believe 19 of them were called by the same referee.
By the way, Illinois is really good. They knocked off Michigan State the day or 2 days later. So they're really, really good. I was more disappointed with how they played on Friday.
Yeah, and so getting to that, not only did they get blown out and lose the game against Illinois, they lost Jawan Gary for the second half of the Illinois game and for the foreseeable future with a shoulder injury. He missed Friday's 73-55 road loss to number 3 Purdue. And then to pile on, you've already got Blaze Cate, who is 70-ish%, it feels like.
He didn't play.
He played like 3 minutes.
Did he play?
Yeah,
okay.
He played, but you could tell he's still pretty limited with that ankle sprain.
Okay.
But Sam Griesel, hip injury, and he had to miss the game. The Huskers take on Ohio State on Wednesday. I'll be hosting the postgame here on 93.7 The Ticket. At the conclusion of that one, it's Ohio State tip-off 6 p.m. This Wednesday.
And by the way, I complained. Actually, they did probably play better basketball at Purdue than they did at home versus Illinois.
They did.
They just didn't have enough. They didn't have Jawan Gary. They didn't have Sam Griesel.
2 of your 3 best players aren't available. And a guy that's realistically, he's not your 6th man or anything like that. But a guy that's going to give you 10 minutes 4 points and 6 rebounds in Blaise Keita is still super limited. So is what it is. We'll see what the Huskers bounce back with on Wednesday. Big week in the portal for the football team. They picked up commitments from Billy Kemp and Walter Roush. Kemp will probably wind up leading Nebraska in receiving next year, and Roush will probably wind up as a all-conference player for the Oklahoma Sooners.
Can I do my impression of Roush committing and then Roush
Tom,
decommitting?
Hey, Tom, being 30 to 40% of all Nebraska fans, Walter Roush just committed to Nebraska.
This is so huge for Nebraska. He's an immediate starter. You put him in there at right tackle or left tackle, either one. You've got Ben Scott, who's an immediate starter at center. You're good if you're Nebraska. In fact, they've just won the West. They are going to the Big Ten championship game. They're going to have a couple 1,000-yard rushers this coming season.
Tom, real quick. Breaking news for Tom and 30 to 40% of the Nebraska fan base. Yeah, Walter Roush just decommitted, and he's going to Oklahoma now.
You know what? He was never very good anyway. And who wants him? He's not good. I mean, just look at his stats. Sure, he's an academic All-American. What has he done on the field? Didn't make the NFL draft. And he was going to be injured. He wasn't going to even practice in the spring. We don't need him. He's terrible.
You do represent a very large swath of this fan base because reading message boards and on Twitter, that's all you saw.
Right.
Just like Husker fans, really. I mean, like,
I think it's a loss.
Out.
I mean,
huge loss.
But
you know,
I don't blame a kid. I'm sure he had somebody in his ear and somebody writing a check from Oklahoma saying, "Hey, you know what? We'll get you the NFL." He was going to go to the NFL regardless, but we'll get you guaranteed to the NFL. And by the way, we'll pay you.
And by the way. Go back to Matt Rule's opening press conference. Any decision that's made today, this one decision, this one player, this one whatever, that's not going to define success or lack of success. It's a day-by-day grind. You take each step. You get up every day. You work hard. You try to be 1% better. All that stuff that he said, this is a prime example. Walter Roush not coming to Nebraska is not going to make next year suck.
No.
It just isn't. You wish the kid
or
the best of luck.
Or if he did come, it doesn't guarantee anything.
Exactly.
I still think, and let's face it, Rule has said this as well. One player, as you mentioned, isn't going to change the future. I do think he could have helped, but I still think this team has a chance to be a pretty good offensive line. I mean, you're going to get Nuri Nwili back. You've got Piper. I think you can mess around with Corcoran. I don't think he's a tackle, but hopefully Teddy Prohaska is there, and you still have Ben Scott. So I think, and by the way, once spring ends, somebody's going to go into the portal that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
And Nebraska is not done recruiting all positions out of
more than likely. No. Starting gate is going to be kind of lengthy. We got a bunch of other stuff to get to. Women's team bounced back from a 3-game losing streak Wednesday night, 80-51 rout of Penn State. Then yesterday they lost at home to number 3 Ohio State, 76-67. However, they played the Buckeyes tough in the second, third, and fourth quarters. They actually outscored them by 3 in those quarters, but they were down by 13 after 1. They play Purdue next Wednesday. Let's see. Last night at the SageNet Center in downtown Tulsa, Oklahoma. Where's Mike going with this? Don't forget, folks, Mike has a background in racing and he loves sprint cars. So I'm going to tell you about Logan Seavey.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about Logan Seavey.
37th annual Chili Bowl. It is the biggest midget sprint car race on the planet.
Is chili served during the
probably
race?
Is. There might even, I know there was cinnamon rolls on the broadcast.
Ooh,
so
delicious.
There could have been both. For those that do not know, it is the biggest and most prestigious midget sprint car race on the planet. This year, 356 entries, including several from the local area. Dondra Jr., Trey Gropp, John Clabundy, Cody Ledger, Jason Martin. 4 of those 5 are Lincoln natives. And, Cody Ledger, as I smack the microphone, Cody Ledger out of Omaha. But
by the way, you mentioned the Chili Bowl, and you also mentioned cinnamon rolls. Do you dip the cinnamon roll in the chili?
I can't stand cinnamon rolls in chili.
I don't understand.
I think it's horrible.
Where did that come from? But I remember as a grade schooler, it was a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Was it a thing
elementary school?
Yeah, at elementary school, it was chili and cinnamon rolls, and Miller and Payne cinnamon rolls. Heidi got them the other day, and they're delicious. And I love cinnamon rolls, but I never would dip them in chili, and I don't even think that combination is good.
Former Lincoln Star and Star's assistant coach, Nick Fouts, used to get chili on his spaghetti. And that just freaked me out.
You should be kicked out of the state, really, or any state. She'd be kicked out.
Quite possible. On Thursday, it was announced that Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren will become the president and CEO of the Chicago Bears. Where does the Big Ten go from here? Everything I read, Kevin Warren probably was not going to get a second contract as the commissioner with the Big Ten. So I don't think this is
it's not like he moved up the food chain. He went to the Bears, which is a nice job. Yeah. Congratulations. I think he thought, you know what? COVID did not treat me well. I got the TV deal signed for the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I can ride out on my white horse and act like I'm the hero, even though nobody likes me.
Yeah. I don't think he would have been retained. We'll see where they go. Ronnie Green was thrown out as a possibility in somebody's crystal ball.
Bill Moose.
Oh, yeah, let's bring Bill back.
Moose.
Two other quick notes on Nebraska athletics. Huge weekend for the Nebraska wrestling team. They knocked off number 12 Minnesota last Friday, 21-9, and then earlier today they beat number 6 Northwestern 22-15.
Props guys.
To the wrestling team. And the women's gymnastics team hosted, I'm going to call it a quadrangular meet today. Today. George Washington, Cornell, and William and Mary were in it with the Nebraska women's gymnastics team. Gymnastics team piled up a score of 196.15. George Washington finished second in this meet with 195 and a couple of tenths of points than Cornell and William and Mary. So props to the women's gymnastics team. They are pretty salty good this year. So looking forward to them making runs into the postseason. NFL playoffs, Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers knocked off Seattle 41-23 yesterday. And then Trevor Lawrence did his best Jekyll and Hyde performance. Throws 4 first-half interceptions, and the Jags are down 27.
That game was over.
Yeah, they're down 27 rip to the Chargers. And then he throws touchdown passes on 4 consecutive possessions and leads the 3rd largest comeback in NFL playoff history.
There have been some good games. There's been a few bad games as well.
Yeah.
But that game yesterday, the Bills game with the Dolphins, I felt bad for Jake today because I know Jake was so excited to be in the playoffs. But they don't have a quarterback. I'm not sure Tua is their guy. Skylar Thompson, what was he picked in the 7th round? He's not a great player either out of Kansas State. I forgot that he was in the NFL until he played. But that was a good football game, and he played pretty well today. Had a few drops, 34-31, though. The Bills get a scare, but they move on.
Yeah, that was big. And now, right now, what is it? 17-14. Giants on top of your
I'll take
Vikings.
that. I mean, the Vikings, I knew their defense is so bad. It's the worst defense, I think, in the NFL. They're going to have to score probably 35 points to win this game. You remember a couple of weeks ago, this is a rematch with the Giants. They had to make a 62-yard field goal to beat the Giants with Joseph. Greg Joseph has been a bad kicker and a great kicker this year, but they're probably going to need him to win this game. Either team. It's just one of those games, and kind of what I expected, 17-14 and a half.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out, and then tomorrow night. So
who do you have right now? What's your gut instinct? Who's the Super Bowl winner? Who's in the Super Bowl, and then who's going to win it?
You know, I'm not a guy that goes chalk often because I just don't like it. In my years of sports broadcasting, which is somewhere in the vicinity of about 23 years, I find myself cheering more for the story. I mean, Huskers, Cowboys, Texas Rangers baseball, Detroit Pistons basketball, Detroit Red Wings hockey. Yeah. But other than that, I could pick a favorite in any game based on what the best story would be. And the best story would not be Kansas City, Philadelphia. And I think that's going to wind up being the Super Bowl, and I think the Eagles win it.
Yeah,
and I don't like that.
Kansas City's definitely chalk. The Bills have to play better than they did today. I really like in the NFC, I like the 49ers, despite the fact that Brock Purdy is their quarterback. Very last player, by the way, chosen in the NFL draft. I mean, I think you get a car or something like that for that.
Right before we come
Mr. Irrelevant.
Literally, the conversation right before Tom turns the microphones on. He goes, he was Mr. Irrelevant. I think you get a Jeep for that.
I think you do.
Welcome into Husker Rewind.
Right. I mean, it's amazing what he has done, but he benefits from a great running game. That's a great defense. They fell behind to Seattle early, but they win at 41-23. I like San Francisco a lot. They're the 2 seed. So even if Minnesota wins today, they're going to have to go to San Francisco next week. I don't feel good about that at all. It's, it very well could be chalk with the Chiefs and with Philly. But I like San Francisco in the NFC, and I think the AFC is more up for grabs.
I would agree. Because between Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Kansas City, and the caveat into those 3 teams is who Cincinnati's got to get through, which is the Ravens. That's a heavy lift. because that would mean you would have to beat them 3 times this year. Or beat them, not 3 times. I think actually those two split, but they would have to beat them in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah. I'm rooting for Cincinnati. I mean, it's the Zach Taylor thing,
exactly.
Right? And Joe Burrow. And I'd like him to stick it to us again because we deserve it. I mean, how do we turn down Joe Burrow not once, but twice? He wanted to come here when Bo Pelini was here. We said no. He wanted to come here when Scott Frost was here, and we said no. We're so dumb.
Yeah, we decided that Adrian Martinez was better than Max Duggan and
that famous comment. That famous comment from Frost. You think he's better than what we got? Yeah, I do. And I like Adrian, but he's better than Adrian.
Quick question.
Breaking news.
I don't like talking about Adrian just because his career here, you can say whatever you want to about it, but the guy didn't get it done. At crunch time, he fumbled. Crunch time, he threw interceptions. He made bad decisions. What happens with him in the NFL? Does he play in the NFL? Does he go to the CFL? To me, he's more of a CFL guy.
He's a CFL guy, and he's not a quarterback in the NFL if he decides to. I just don't think he's accurate enough. I love the guy. I mean, the guy played with a broken jaw for many games.
Yeah,
he's a stud.
He's a great human being.
Yeah, and he's a pretty good quarterback. If you use him right,
good, but
evidence, Kansas State.
Just make sure you don't put him in any pressure situations. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Well, yeah, they were better with the backup there as well. You did mention we did our impressions of Walter Rouse committing to Nebraska when he committed and how excited we were. And my opening segment here was going to be about Nebraska's offensive line and how much better it was going to be with 2 immediate starters, Ben Scott at center, and then Walter Rouse at left tackle. You move Teddy Prohaska to right tackle. You've got Nurden coming back. You've got Ethan Piper. Either one could be at left guard or right guard. And then you could move Corcoran. And I was so excited about the potential of that offensive line. And Matt Rule said he likes it anyway.
Yeah.
But it was a punch in the gut. When a guy says he's coming and you pencil him in as an immediate starter, no, he wasn't going to play in the spring because of the injury. But I was really excited. And then I was like, this is crap. But then I thought to what you have said and what Rule has said, one player isn't going to change everything. One player is not going to make a difference, especially for the long haul. But, man, I would have liked to have had him.
Absolutely. Off the Starter Heyman text line, Dustin, who is a Chiefs fan, says, yeah, but they're not really playing as well as I would like them to right now.
Their defense isn't great, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not. But at the end of the day, you still have Pat Mahomes and I mean,
the $500 million man.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to bet against them, and they're the number 1 seed. They get every game at home.
Well, and Andy Reid, man, he is cagey. There's just something about like all of his years of winning, but not winning enough in Philadelphia. And I think that's why he has learned so much. He is a guy I just would never, ever want to bet against. If my team was going head-to-head fourth quarter and we're down to the last 4 minutes and the game's tied, I'm just like, I don't know if my coach is smart enough to figure out what he's going to do that's going to allow Kansas City to have an opportunity to win this game where I don't think my team is going to, and my team obviously is the
Should
Cowboys.
we talk some NFL with our buddy Nate?
You know, we should. There's a young man that used to work here at the Ticket. We went to his going away party about a week ago.
I can't believe he's leaving.
Yeah,
he's a stud, by the way, in the broadcast business. He's not even going to do sports for a living, not on a regular basis. It's more of a part-time gig. This was a part-time gig when he was with Strick on the block, and I thought they were great. Nate was great. Strick was great. Obviously, still is great. They were very fun to listen to together, but his desire is to be a big TV star. He's got the face for TV.
Yeah.
Unlike
myself. This is where you and I are in radio and we'll never venture out.
That's right. And he's good at it. But if he wanted to make a living on a regular basis in sports radio, he could easily do that. So it'll be interesting to watch his career. He's now moving to Kansas City. He's moved to Kansas City.
He moved down there on the 12th, and I don't know. We'll find out how he's doing because we're going to talk to him next.
Usually when people leave town, they just ignore us forever. Like they never talk to us again.
Well, when I sent him a text and asked him if he would be on the show, he goes, "Who is this?
Who is this?" Block. Block. No, we'll talk to Nate Brennan. Is he going by Nate Brennan still? Or I mean, because TV stars sometimes change their name when they change their hair color.
True. I don't know. We'll have to ask him. We'll have to see if he wants to get into the story of Wingfest. But anyway,
he'll be a good guest. He understands the NFL. We'll talk a lot about the NFL and his picks for the playoffs. I don't follow it. I'll be honest. I don't follow it like Nate does. I follow the Vikings. I follow the playoffs. But he is crazy into the NFL. So we'll talk to him about it and maybe throw in some Husker football, basketball questions. He's not out of line for answering those type of questions as well. No. So we could do that with Nate Brennan, formerly of On the Block here at the Ticket. Now in Kansas City, he's a big TV star, but he's still willing to talk to us, and we'll talk to him next.
Meeting your goal of having a healthy diet has never been easier than with the Venue at Home Healthy Living subscription. Chef-inspired meals that are health-conscious and delivered right to your door every week. All you have to do is heat and eat. We offer delicious entrees, gluten-free pastas, fresh rice bowls, soups, salads, and more. Build your own package as a subscription to receive meals every week, designed to help you meet your dietary goals. Order your custom healthy meal package today at venueathome.net.
I'm Jenny Benson, president of the Nebraska State Education Association. The best way to strengthen our economy for the long term is investing in our education system and raising the skills of American workers. To succeed in the global economy, we need to modernize our schools, hire excellent teachers, and focus on the future. Support great public schools, and we can make the good life even better.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired in cooperation with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
A lot of work goes into making Nebraska, Nebraska. Keeping it green. Helping it thrive. Making it fun. Everything that goes into caring for our outdoors, from waters to wildlife, plays a big role in making Nebraska home. Learn how we help conserve our state's natural resources at outdoornebraska.org.
Paid for by Nebraska Game and Parks. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you want to come and text us.
If you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music.
This is Mommy's jam.
Then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
This message is for Karina, our mom who finished her high school diploma at age 28. Hi, Mom. It's Emmettith and Nicholas. Congratulations on getting your diploma. You worked so hard and have taught us so much. We love you.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Mario fue pintor más de 30 años. Cuando me dijo que se le estaban olvidando las cosas, fue difícil. Un día me dijeron que pintara el marco del lado por dentro y pinté el lado de afuera.
Yo le diría a la gente que le diga a su familia lo que está pasando con él.
Si algo se nota diferente, podría ser Alzheimer. Es momento de hablarlo. Visita alz.org/nuestras historias para saber más. Un mensaje de The Alzheimer's Association y The Ad Council.
We're in the service. Back to the Sunday Rewind with Tom and Mike on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Nobody on the run, nobody on the beach.
Welcome back to the Husker Rewind here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. I'm Mike Melby. That's Tom Stevens. And on the Honda of Lincoln hotline, we have the incomparable, the television star that is Mr. Nate Brennan. Nate, how are you, bud?
Is he there? I pushed the button. I thought I pushed the right button. We hung up on him the first time.
Yeah.
Nate, call back again. Apparently our phone hates you right now. We love you, but the phone hates you. I don't think you pushed the top one. I think you pushed the bottom one, right, Mike?
Pushed the bottom one.
I mean, we're not engineers, but we sometimes play them in the radio.
What if you hit the top button?
What happens if hit the top one. Does that work? Nate, are you there?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Hey, there he is. Oh, I thought you hit the bottom one. It's been a few months since I've been on the air, so I have no idea how to operate the equipment. Operator Air, how are you, Nate?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you doing? It's raining right now in Kansas City. I don't know if you guys have gotten it yet. I know you got some snow headed your way, and we haven't quite gotten it yet, but we're hanging in there. We're in the middle of the move, and we're just trying to get through it at this point.
How is it going? Been a big TV star. Do you carry a comb wherever you go?
No, I do not. And I don't know if we'll go that far quite yet, but we're getting there. We're in the process.
Nice. Now, what are you going to be? Now, I'll let you prop up the television station. And what are you going to be doing TV wise down there?
Yeah, so it'll be similar to what I was doing in Lincoln, where I was working for 10/11. It's just going to be morning reporting, but I'm now in Kansas City, and I'll still be at the CBS station. So I'll be at CCTV5, CBS station in Kansas City. So same thing, different station, and I'm looking forward to it. I actually start tomorrow too, so not early morning, so I get to sleep in a little bit, which will be nice. But same role, but I'll tell you now, I'm already starting to miss Lincoln a little bit. It's a great place.
Well, you miss us, of course.
That's got to be it. Now,
of course I do.
So are you and Carly getting settled? You guys in the townhouse now?
Yes, we are. So we're headed there now as we speak. Actually, we had to stop by Marshall. Take a wild guess whose idea that was to go there. But we're coming back from Marshall. We went shopping for a little bit. But I mean, dude, come on, you guys have been there. You know how it goes. I'm not calling the shots anymore. We're just getting through it.
Exactly. You know, you're for those that don't know, your girlfriend Carly spent 4 years playing for Nebraska softball. Fantastic person. And when she told me what she was going to school for, she's going to be a speech therapist. Like, that's insane. I don't know how someone comes up and goes, that's what I want to do. But bottom line is she just helps people. It's awesome.
I know. She's a far better person than me. We'll just go ahead and end it.
Well, that's automatic.
I was going to say, there's no argument from us. So now, how is Chiefs fever down there right now? Had a couple of Chiefs fans that texted into the show earlier. They're a little nervous. They don't think the Chiefs are playing well. Have you interacted with some of the locals enough to the point where you can get any kind of a feel for how Chiefs Kingdom is feeling? They're bye week this week, but still.
No, I haven't. What's really fascinating and interesting about Kansas is that the Chiefs obviously aren't playing this weekend, but it's a legal sports gambling state. So any bar that you go into, you can kind of get the idea of who everyone's gambling for. So I've met a lot of Miami Dolphins fans this weekend, and is there any connection to Miami and Kansas? No, probably not. So that'll probably tell you right there where everyone's head is at. But what's interesting enough, I haven't really met too many Chiefs fans. And what I think is so fascinating is that with this whole coin flip shenanigans, now the Chiefs have the 1 seed, possibly a neutral site. I'm really curious because next week, obviously, I'll go out, kind of try and get the grasp of how everyone's feeling. I know at this point in time, they could either be playing, I think it's the Jaguars, or possibly now it looks like the Bengals. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe the Ravens, I think it's in that group. So I don't necessarily know what that's going to look like. But I think what's so fascinating is that even if the Chiefs win, you're not guaranteed a home game for the AFC Championship, even though you're the 1 seed. So I'm curious to see how that feels because I'll be entirely honest with you. I understand what happened with the NFL. You had to postpone the game. You couldn't play it and all that. But if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm livid. Are you kidding me? I'm the number 1 seed. Put me in, give me a home game. I'll make that revenue for the city and all that. So I think that's the biggest question mark heading into these AFC playoffs.
Okay, so speaking of the NFL playoffs, were you surprised at what happened yesterday as much as maybe the rest of the world, especially in one of those games?
No. So I'm actually in a pool right now where you're doing the pick'em and all that. And the team that I had actually was the Jaguars. Did I think they would start so poorly? No, probably not. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you're the Chargers, you have to be beyond frustrated, right? Because you look at what happened this season, you saw what happened to the Colts, an absolute debacle, worst team in NFL history this season, if you ask me. But I mean, you look at what happened and say, okay, here's the blueprint. Don't do that. And you did exactly that. I would be beyond frustrated. I don't know where the Chargers go from here. I know they've been linked to Sean Payton a couple times. Maybe that's what you're looking at. I'm not entirely sure, but I actually had the Jaguars to win. I think they were the better team. It'll be interesting to see what happens now moving forward.
Giants are on top of the Vikings 24-14 as we speak.
Stop
Giants
it.
opened
Stop
up the
it.
second half with a touchdown to extend the lead. Which way do you see this game going?
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm a firm believer you can't spell the word elite without Eli Manning. You can't spell the word elite without Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones. Give me the Giants. I think that they've been slept on all season. I think Daniel Jones hasn't gotten his props. And I want to ask you guys, there's so many parallels between Daniel Jones and Eli Manning. I can go a step further and say Daniel Jones is probably better than Eli Manning. So I got the Giants, and I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Giants beat the Eagles in the next round either.
Well, they were the sexy pick to win this game. The Vikings, I think, have won more one-score games than any other team in the history of the NFL. I mean, I didn't believe them to start with, and I haven't all season, and I guess just a pessimistic Vikings fan. But even if they win this week, one of those teams is going to go to San Francisco next week, right? Nobody's beaten San Francisco at home.
Is that what would end? So if the Vikings win, it would be San Francisco, which I agree with you. I think that the 49ers are probably the team to beat right now. Yeah. But I got to ask you this, Tom. If the game is played at noon, are you buying Kirk Cousins? Because then we got a different discussion if the game's at noon.
I'm not buying Kirk Cousins on the moon at noon. It doesn't matter.
With green eggs and ham.
That's right. Could not buy Kirk Cousins. Obviously, the Chiefs are the number one seed. Are they your favorite to go to the Super Bowl from the AFC?
I think the AFC is a lot more wide open than the NFC. Like I said, I think the 49ers are the team to beat. If I was a gambling man, which I am, I'd probably say the Chiefs are the team to beat just because I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes. He just kind of gives me that feel. I don't know if it was the same way maybe you'd say 5 years ago, maybe even more recently. It's the Tom Brady theory, right? You never bet against Tom Brady in the playoffs. I don't know if Patrick Mahomes is quite on that level. I think he's getting there. If we're betting right now, I don't bet against Patrick Mahomes. I don't bet against the Chiefs. But then you look at the situation too. The Chiefs over the last 5-6 weeks do not look like the best team in the AFC. I'll be the first person to tell you that. And if you're at a neutral site, I'm definitely worried if you're playing the Buffalo Bills. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it's a 3-team race between the Bengals, the Bills, the Chiefs. I think we can all agree with that. And when it comes down to it, if you play the 49ers in the Super Bowl, you're going to be playing Brock Purdy. So, I mean, this is just one of those situations. If you can come out of the AFC, you've got to believe that you're the front runner to win.
Hey, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. That's all I'm saying. So you mentioned Tom Brady. I'm a Cowboys fan. I have 100% full confidence that my Cowboys will choke and lose tomorrow. Do you feel the same way?
No, I don't. See, this is the first problem that I made. So when I was on the block with Strick, he is a firm believer that the Cowboys will, quote Eric Strickland, achy break your heart. I said, Strick, I don't know if this is the year. I'm buying the Cowboys. I don't know why. I think the Cowboys are one of the teams to beat. And then they absolutely blow it against the Washington football team, against a rookie quarterback who's never played a snap, who started on the practice squad. So maybe I'm not buying the Cowboys as much as I did. I think the Buccaneers are a bad football team. I think the Tom Brady factor goes into it, but at the end of the day, he's a 45-year-old. The team is decimated with injuries. Mike, I have good news for you. I think the Cowboys advance, and I think that they probably give the next team, depending on how this Giants-Vikings game shapes out, I think the Cowboys give the next team a run for their money and head to the NFC Championship.
Well, I would take it. There's one other game tonight, and this is the interesting one, and you said 3-team race, Bills, Bengals, Chiefs. I'm going to throw the 4th team in because the Bengals beat the Ravens last week. They got to play them again this week. That is not easy, beating the same team 2 weeks in a row. No. I actually like the Ravens tonight.
They don't have a quarterback.
I think with Lamar Jackson, I'm with you. I think that situation is fascinating because I know that Lamar Jackson has been dealing with injuries throughout the entire season. I know that when the week started, it was that he was probable to play. Now it's shifted that he's out. I know contract negotiations, disputes have been a part of that conversation. And now it looks like Tyler Huntley is also out. Anthony Brown versus Joe Burrow. I mean, again, I know that the NFL is a team sport. I know defenses win Super Bowls. I understand all of that. But on paper, I mean, it's similar to the Bills versus the Dolphins. When it comes down to the wire, who's the team that comes out on top? The team with the better quarterback, Josh Allen. So if push comes to shove, I'm going to take the Bengals simply because they have Joe Burrow on their sideline. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't know, Mike. I want to know. Let me know your rationale as to why you're taking the Ravens, and maybe you can change my mind.
The rationale was because I went off of Monday's report that Jackson was probably going to play. No,
okay.
Knowing what I did not know any of what you just said. My life on the weekends consists of doing a lot of building things.
Lamar may not be in a uniform with the Ravens next year. That doesn't sound
I didn't
good.
know. I did not know. I was under the impression he was playing. So knowing that, never mind. There's only 3 teams in the AFC.
As you mentioned, they won a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer, so you never know.
True.
Their defense is okay. So give me your Super Bowl matchup. You're way too early. Super Bowl matchup.
So it was at the beginning of the season. It was Chiefs and Cowboys. I know that's going to make you excited, Mike. Again, for some reason, that game last week, Washington football team, Commanders, whatever you want to call them, the fact that Sam Howell just absolutely torched the Dallas Cowboys with all of their starters, competing for the 1 seed at the time. Now I know they're probably scoreboard watching, whatever have you. That kind of worried me. So I had the Cowboys versus the Chiefs. I'm going to stick with the Chiefs on the AFC side. Again, I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes, but I'm actually going to go with the 49ers. And I never thought that I would say this, but when you look at the history of the 49ers, I mean, they go to the Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick. Then they go to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. Now there's a chance they go to a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy. It looks like you don't need an elite quarterback if Kyle Shanahan's your play caller. If you're in a San Francisco 49ers uniform, I don't know what it is about that team. I'm going to go 49ers, NFC. I'm going to go Chiefs in the AFC. Chiefs win the Super Bowl.
It should give Nebraska hope with Chuba Purdy, right? You don't need.
I don't know about that.
Wouldn't he
brakes on that a little bit?
Wouldn't he have to still be playing for Nebraska next year for that to happen?
Well, theoretically, that would be. Wasn't he the last player taken in the NFL draft? I think he was. You get
He
a
was.
Jeep,
It's irrelevant.
Yeah, you get a Jeep for that, I think, or something like that. You get something special. What's behind door number 2, or something like. Hey, it's been fun talking to you. We already miss you a lot.
We
do. I will say I miss you guys too. I appreciate you letting me join your show. If you ever want me to join, that's probably a foolish mistake on your guys' part. I understand that, but if you ever need someone to fill some time, please feel free to ask me, and I'd love to talk to football.
You need to get a sports radio gig in Kansas City, right? You're going to be on sports radio somewhere in Kansas City.
We'll see. I know Carly said maybe pump the brakes on that a little bit. Maybe enjoy yourself, get a little bit of extra free time, but it's tough to get away from sports radio. You know that better than anyone, Tom.
Well, you're a good-looking man. You belong in TV. Just make sure you always have a comb. That's
exactly
important.
Hey, I got a face for radio. At least that's what they know.
That's why Tom and I have been in radio for so long.
That's right.
Nate, best to you and Carly, from Tracy and I and Tom and everybody up here as well. And we will be probably bringing you back on because we could probably keep you on for the next 90 minutes and finish the show with you and talk about everything else under the sun. Very educated, knowledgeable young man.
And he's been
very
good luck
talented.
for my Vikings. They just scored. So 21 to
there you go,
24 to 21. The Vikings back in it. But they're terrible.
All right. Go Vikings, Tom. I'll give you one of those. How's that sound?
Thanks, Nate.
All right. Take care, Nate.
Skull. There he is. Nate Brennan, now in TV in Kansas City. Big radio star here and TV star here, but now he's just going to do TV for now.
Yep.
He could really, he's great breaking down the NFL.
Oh, he is. And the way he handles if you're a reporter and you're live in television, local, national, whatever, that is a whole realm of talent that very few people have. That is one of the most difficult things to do. You know, I did play-by-play for, probably well over 1,000 athletic events, be it racing, be it football, be it basketball, be it hockey. And stuff goes sideways, etc., but you can always kind of roll with it because you're in an enclosed setting. Man, if you're a reporter and you're on TV, you're on camera, you are out in the public, and anybody can do anything to mess you up. Breaking news can happen. I mean, the craziest stuff can happen. And he's one of those guys that just, bam,
he's good.
Things just
really
click.
Talented. I hate him for it. Where do you want to go from here? We could talk a little Husker hoops. We could go back to recruiting. A little bit later on, we're going to have Evan Bland to talk about recruiting, so we might save that for a little bit later on. Walter Rouse is a big story, but we'll kind of broach that with Evan Bland a little bit later on. Why don't we hit some Husker basketball?
Let's do that, and then I want to preview something I teased on Twitter a while ago. We're going to do a segment near the end of the show. It's going to be called Tailgate Time, because Mike likes to cook what I think is really good food, and most people that eat it think that as well. I also have been a bartender, and I've created my own drinks. And I'm going to ask for the listeners to chime in on the Sutter Heyman text line, and we're going to have some fun. But we're going to do Tailgate Time next hour, and I'm going to share with you. It's actually what I had for dinner last night. This is what I was like, you know what, that first recipe.
You're a good cook.
Thank you.
I am not.
And we're gonna share with you every week. We're going to do this up until Super Bowl. And then Super Bowl Sunday, the show is going to be from 1 to 3. And Tom, I know you're going to be out of town, but I have already got a cast of characters lined up that are going to help me co-host this thing. We're going to do Husker Rewind, but it's going to be a Husker Rewind Super Bowl tailgate, pregame, whatever gong show.
I like it.
And we're going to have fun. But every week we're going to do just a quick little 5-minute segment. Tailgate Time. We're going to share some recipes with you. We want to hear yours as well. But that's coming up next hour. Hey, let's talk some Husker hoops, though.
We'll do
the
that
way next.
It's Husker Rewind. He's Mike Melby. I'm Tom Stevens, back with more after this.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning now in our new time. We're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
Hey, you got any gum?
Yeah, check my backpack.
What's this?
Oh, that's naloxone. It can reverse an opioid overdose. I decided to always keep it on me after my friend almost died. It saved his life.
I'm so sorry. That makes me want to have it with me too.
You totally should. Check the pharmacy. It was actually really easy to get, and it's easy to use.
I definitely will. Thanks.
Paid for by the CDC. Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends, surprise parties, camps, birthdays. The same way you plan for the important moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
A Shiro's work is never done. You care for the house, the kids, and our future. We're so grateful for all you do. Now it's time to care for yourself and save a little more for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to boost your retirement savings now. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro today.
A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
How was your drive to school?
Let me tell you, I had to get my iced coffee first. I just can't seem to put it down. My favorite rapper just announced a tour. My phone was buzzing like crazy. I'm so excited. I had to text all my friends right then to talk about it. Then someone started calling me and...
Let's try that again.
I turned my phone off right away. I never drive distracted.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
More of the Sunday Rewind is coming your way next.
60% of the time, it works every time.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back. Husker Rewind. Tom Stevens here. Mike Melby there.
That was a great rejoin because we just had literally Anchorman himself.
That's right. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. We had
Nate
Lincoln's
is an
own
Anchorman.
Lincoln's own Ron Burgundy. Nate Brennan was just on. If you do not know what that film clip is.
60% of the time, it works every time.
Yeah, it's Paul Rudd in the movie Anchorman.
Yep. So, Nebraska falls, both the ladies and the men. The men lose on Friday night to Purdue. The women fall to Ohio State 76-67. That was a pretty good basketball game. Ohio State broke out to a 25-12 lead. Nebraska came back. They led by 17. That is Ohio State, but Nebraska made it close, got it down to 3, but fell yesterday. And now Ohio State, one of 3 undefeated teams in women's hoops.
Yeah.
The men, a little more predictable as they fall to number 3 Purdue on the road, 73-55. I thought they played pretty well considering no Jawan Gary, no Sam Griesel. Derek Walker was their only source of revenue.
Yeah, and then Wilhelm Breidenbach, he's been playing better as of late. And I mean,
Tominaga played well.
It was just one of those nights for Breidenbach. I mean, he goes 0 for, and he's just horrible.
He by the way, he and Denham Dawson both got their first starts in that game.
Yeah.
Due to missing in action Sam Griesel and Jawan Gary. Casey continues to play well. He had 4 threes, 16 points in the game, his 9th double-figure game of the year. But Nebraska really did a pretty good job on the big man. They just couldn't do anything else. And when you do that, you can't take away everything. And Fletcher Lloyd had a huge game, 27 points for Purdue in that game. But Zach Edey only had 12 points, but he did have 13 rebounds.
Boards, yeah. And when you sit there and you look at the Nebraska basketball roster, everybody's got a job to do. And Jawan Gary is a guy that does double duty. He is the guy that is going to get every hustle, rebound, loose ball, and play defense. And he's going to bring energy that no one else can bring because of the way he plays the game. Like it's double, triple, quadruple duty for him. He does all of it. He does all of it well. He wasn't there.
He's the glue guy. He's the glue guy of this. I mean, obviously Derek Walker is the best player on Nebraska's roster, but he's the glue guy. And they're really, I mean, everybody talks about the Griesel-Walker combination, but Gary really benefits from the double teams that Walker receives. He gets a lot of cleanup activity around the offensive boards and defensive boards. And he really benefits from what I think he would have really been big on Friday night because Walker had a big game, 9 of 15, 6 assists or 6 rebounds, 4 assists. He had a great game. He had 13 of Nebraska's first 15 points, but they have nothing else.
No. Well, they do. They got Casey Tominaga and CJ Wilcher that are supposed to be, hitting threes and doing whatever.
CJ's kind of disappeared.
CJ's just disappeared this year. I don't know what's going on. He was a guy that fought through it last year, figured it out. So he's done it before. Hopefully he can figure it out and get his stroke back again this year. But, at the end of the day, you wind up without Jawan Gary and then Sam Griesel, who's another guy that, you and I have talked. There's not a Alonzo Verge, go get your own bucket, Bryce McGowan's go get your own bucket type of player on this team.
No,
the closest thing they have is Sam Griesel.
Or Derek Walker.
But Walker is, he's going to back a guy down.
Yeah.
I guess when I talk about going and getting your own bucket, it's a pretty quick move, a crossover, a spin move, something that is borderline damn. And
they don't have that.
They don't have that. Now, Griesel will take a guy. He'll work him inside. He'll back him down. He's got a beautiful fadeaway.
He's got the old man YMCA
He
game.
does.
That guy that frustrates you, and he's like 48 years old.
And like we mean that in the utmost compliment. I mean, it's a part of the game that it seems lost. But he just does. He doesn't do anything spectacular. He just does it really well. And from an opposition standpoint, it's really annoying to play against a guy like Sam Griesel, and it's even more annoying to play against a guy like Jawan Gary because of what they bring. And that's the whole thing. Nebraska went in to the number 3 ranked team in the country. They've only got 1 loss, and they went into their barn and they hung with. They lost by 19. I get it, but they were missing their 2 best players.
Well, and now they're going to be missing still one of their 2 best players in Jawan Gary for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Fred Hoiberg has said he may not come back until the end of the year, toward the end of the year. It might be March, late February. Who knows? You hope for the best. I was at the Illinois game. When he got hit in the shoulder, you could tell it wasn't good. I mean, he did not react well to that. He did not come back into the game. And again, he's your glue guy. He can even he's shooting it much better this year. Yep. Sometimes he can knock down some threes. He's definitely the guy that penetrates. He benefits from Derek Walker. They kind of have a two-man game going without, it's not really intentional. He's just more of the cleanup guy around the rim for Derek Walker. But now you're without, well, Greasel should be back on Wednesday for Ohio State.
Hopefully.
And in fact, he was a late scratch and nobody really knew that was coming, the hip pointer thing.
Yeah.
But it made me think, this is as good of a team as Fred Hoiberg has had in his 4 years. Is it 4 years?
Yeah, this is his fourth.
This is his fourth year now at Nebraska. This is the best team that he has had, and by far, and record-wise, they're going to get to 10 wins, 11 wins. They're at 9 now. 11 would be the best record that Hoiberg has had. But next year, you lose Derek Walker. You lose Emmanuel Bandamel. You lose Sam Greasel. You lose arguably your three best players. They have one player coming in who is signed. You have Ramel Lloyd, who could be your point guard next year, although it's odd to me that he hasn't played at all. A top 100 recruit who played with.
He was announced early in the season. He's redshirting. That's why he hasn't played.
Right. Well, yeah, I know, but you would expect a top 100 recruit to come in, especially the one that played with LeBron James' son in high school. You expect that guy to maybe come in and make an impact. He has not, and this team does not have a true point guard. Bandamel might be close to that, and Greasel close to that, but they don't have a point guard. Next year, it's going to be tough. I mean, and it makes me think back to what's happened to Nebraska basketball since Danny Nee left town. Whether you're talking about Barry Collier or Doc Sadler or Tim Miles, it gets to year number 4 or 5, and coaches start to recruit against that coach. It's very difficult to recruit. So you kind of are left with transfers, which is where Fred Hoiberg is going to be again. He's going to have to replace Derek Walker. I don't know that he can do that. Maybe he can. Maybe he can find somebody in the portal that's as good or better than Derek Walker and Sam Greasel and Emmanuel Bandamel. But you have a tough time. You can talk for a while, and you're a pretty good talker, Mike, and you're pretty convincing because I believe a lot of the things you say. But it would take a lot of convincing for you to explain to me how Nebraska will be better next year than they are currently this year. If they get to 14 wins, they're probably going to need 15 wins to be on the bubble of the NIT.
No, they're going to need, because you got to be 500. That's the whole thing. They get
16 wins.
They got 31 games plus the tournament. So, you're looking at, you've got to get to 16 or 17 wins.
Well, 15 wins by the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah. I mean, 16-16 with a loss in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, and you're 16-15 and then a loss in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. Maybe, you'll get into the NIT because you're going to put, 10,000 people at PBA. But
now I think Hoiberg's coming back. If he gets the 13 wins, I think he's coming back. I really do.
I think he is too, simply because at the end of the day, like, the dinner napkin that Trev Alberts and Coach Hoiberg, went, you know what? I think this would be good goals for next year. Yeah. If what has been shown by Hoiberg to me so far this year isn't enough, and I get it. Things could come off the rails and they lose every one of the rest. Yeah, then he may need to go. But they're 9-9 with the second toughest schedule in all of college basketball. There's 300 and how many Division I college teams? They have the second toughest schedule of all of them.
I get it.
And they're 9-9. They played without their best player for the first 5 games. And another big man that was supposed to come in and give them that 10 minutes, 4 rebounds, 6 points, whatever, 6 rebounds, 4 points in Blaise Keita has been essentially non-existent for the last 6 games because of injury. You've missed Sam Greasel for a couple of games, the guy that's running your point, that's the calming influence. And they're 9-9 against the second toughest schedule in college basketball. I'm okay with what Fred has done this year.
I'm going to have to wait. I'm not done. I mean, again.
Like I said,
it's not necessarily come off the rails.
Sideways, but
to me, they've got to make the postseason. But I don't think that's the way that Trev Alberts is looking at it. I think he thinks, hey, they've improved. The first season they won 7 games. Second season they won 7 games. Third season 10 games. This is going to be an improvement this year. But for a team that lives on defense, for me, it's not good enough. They're 75th in rebounding. They're 121st in points allowed. They're 120th in offensive point production. They're 302nd in field goal percentage. They're 216th in 3-point percentage. They're 340th. Let's see.
Probably in free throws.
In free throws, they're 310th, I believe, actually. 29% from 3-point range.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. And I remember Tom Osborne doing it, and I agreed with it at the time, and then it came back to bite him. He extended Doc Sadler. Remember that?
Yeah.
He extended Doc Sadler at the end of his contract, and then he had to fire him, and Doc went up there. He's the only coach in the history of that I can think of that went up to his own firing and gave a post-game press conference, and it was very awkward.
Well, yeah, he had to leave because he got emotional, and then he came back.
Yeah, then it came back. And we all loved Doc, and he came back. Yeah. He was on the staff with Fred Hoiberg last year. But I almost think you need to do something similar and take a risk. If you really believe in Fred Hoiberg, you can't allow teams, which I think is happening right now. They just lost in Dongo. It looks like to Rutgers. It's very difficult to recruit anyway to Nebraska. I think you have to send a message. We're extending him for 3 more years, 4 more years, whatever it is. Well, and if you really believe in him, show recruits that you believe in him.
His contract's got 4 years left on it.
Add 2 more.
You don't need to extend him. That's if you're recruiting against Fred Hoiberg and the University of Nebraska,
because that's an automatic rollover.
Because Fred's contract is coming to an end, that's one thing, but it's not. If you're recruiting against Nebraska because of the number 24, i.e. the number of wins in the first 3 years, then that's fine. And Fred's got a counterpoint to it. But Trev Alberts does not need to come out and go, I believe in Fred. I'm going to give him a 2 or 3 year extension. I don't think teams are recruiting against us saying, well, the university doesn't believe in him. He's not going to be there.
I think it happens. I think it happens.
I think it does. I just don't think it is in this instance.
I just feel like Ndongo was going to be Nebraska's to lose. And by the way, it was between Nebraska, Michigan, and Rutgers, I believe. And it looked like, I think Robin put in a crystal ball for Nebraska.
Yeah.
And somebody stepped in and said, you know what? This isn't going well at Nebraska. And will he be your coach next year? I think that's what happened.
I don't. You know what I think happened? I think somebody showed up and they said, what's your NIL deal at Nebraska? And
it's not bad, by the way. I know some people who run the NIL stuff, and it's not bad at Nebraska.
Well, I get that. But at the end of the day, I mean, if we're going to talk, numbers we'll never know, but what's going on, we suspect. Bottom line is, if you've got a recruit that you need and the other team's collective outbids you, that's not on the coach. That's on the collective. And if that's what happened here, this isn't Hoiberg's loss of a player. It's the collective's loss of a player.
Yeah, but you get that player if you have more wins in many cases. If you have yes, if you make NCAA tournaments, and by the way, Nebraska's never won a game in the NCAA tournament.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I know. It's breaking news. I just saw it across the ESPN scroll. It's just it's tough to sell. It's tough to sell Nebraska basketball. It's been tough to sell Nebraska football.
Yeah.
And I think actually Matt Rule did a really good job considering the hand he was dealt. We should talk a little recruiting.
Probably should.
We'll definitely do it with. I can't decide if we want to do it with Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. If we can talk about a number of things. We'll definitely do an NFL scoreboard.
Oh yeah.
Minnesota Vikings still trailing to the New York Giants 24-21, 14 minutes, 37 seconds left to go in the fourth quarter. So you're saying there's a chance. There's a very good chance, actually, for Minnesota Viking football. But a lot on the plate. Evan Bland with the Omaha World Herald yet to come this hour. Mike Melby, former voice of the Lincoln Stars, and Tom Stevens, former voice of the Ticket. But I'm still now the current voice of the Ticket. I just do a weekend show. It's called Husker Rewind. We do it every Sunday from 5 to 7. More on the way.
Every child has the ability to be successful and thrive in life, but sometimes they need your help. Big Brothers Big Sisters of Lincoln exist to help children unlock their potential by making meaningful matches between adult volunteers and young people. Right now, there are children just waiting for a mentor to step up and make an impact in their lives. Learn more online at bbslincoln.org. There are kids right here in Lincoln waiting to get started. Volunteer today and start something big.
You were almost home when suddenly you find yourself battling off the germs that cause sore throats. Luckily, you've been training for this moment by staying up to date on vaccinations, washing your hands, disinfecting surfaces at home, and avoiding touching your face. And thanks to the great tips at catchgoodhealth.org, you're on your way to being the very best at staying well. Don't let the Pikachu damage your health this cold and flu season. Instead, start your training today at catchgoodhealth.org.
I'm Jenny Benson, president of the Nebraska State Education Association. It's a new year. One resolution that should be a priority is to make reading a part of your child's daily routine. Kick off the new year by making reading a priority in your home. Read to your children. Let them read to you. Make every day an opportunity to sharpen your child's language skills while expanding their vocabulary and knowledge.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association. Aired in cooperation with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This message is for Shauna, my mom, who just finished her high school diploma. I wanted to say I'm so proud of you for finishing school. You taught me it's never too late to achieve your dreams. I hope to make you as proud as you have made me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me. I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Neil Armstrong waited 6 hours and 39 minutes to step onto the surface of the moon. Jackie Robinson waited 20 months to play his first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And even DiCaprio had to wait 22 years to win an Oscar. You can wait until your destination. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer.
In response to attacks against Asian Americans, Maddie Park raised over $250,000 to donate cab rides to the Asian community.
There is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
Support the Asian community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
This is Sunday Rewind on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Now, here are your hosts, Tom Stevens and Mike Melby.
But yeah, when you say like recruiting pitch, I'm not sure we have like a recruiting pitch. Like, no, I completely understand what you're saying, but like those kids, they Google, they say it themselves. Like they'll look that kind of stuff up. And if I get asked a question, then sure, but we kind of start with like Nebraska. Like this place is wonderful on its own. And I believe in our head coach and the program and the culture and what he's going to do.
That was in response to a question of Evan Cooper, brand new secondary coach for the University of Nebraska, who is evidently a walking billboard for name a energy drink.
He's got some energy.
He's got some energy. Sure. They asked him, they said, hey, with your NFL experience, is that your recruiting pitch? Hey, I worked in the NFL. And he's like, he tried so hard to he's like, no offense, but no.
Right.
and bottom line is, and again, I mean, it's one of those, it's, let's win a press conference. We're pretty good at it.
They're all really good at it. And you can tell that Matt Rule intentionally picks guys that think the same way that he does. There's no manual that they all have to read and memorize and make sure that they don't say anything that's not in the manual of Matt Rule, the rule book, so to speak. But they all say the same things that he says.
Were you able to watch the press conferences with EJ Barthel and Evan Cooper?
Yeah,
the full ones?
I did.
The interesting thing, somebody asked the question, I can't remember if it was Sean Callahan or Sam McEwen. Is there a manuscript? Like, is there a manifest written down of the program?
Right. And it feels like there might be.
Or is it just,
it's just in his
your
head?
head? And the way Evan Cooper, I think, is who was asked that question. And his response was essentially, you come work for Coach Rule and you will learn it. And it's because every part of what you're talking about or asking about, it happens every day.
And by the way, there's respect. They all say Coach Rule. You don't hear any Billy C's or Frosties. There's a lot of respect for who he is. And I don't think he's always necessarily the easiest guy to work for because he's demanding. But I don't think he ever asks guys to do stuff that he won't do.
He is demanding, and that is going to lead me to ask you a question about some rumors that were out late last week and this weekend about a former Husker that stepped away from the team last season.
Right.
Omaha native Xavier Betts is rumored to be in contact with Matt Rule and his staff about potentially returning to the program.
He's a stud. He's an absolute athletic stud. You wonder about his state of mind.
He said he didn't love the game. It wasn't what he wanted to do with his life, etc. when he walked away. Major props to a young man for saying it, if that's truly the way he felt. But that being said, him coming back into the fold, the one little caveat, and I have zero problem if he winds up coming back to Nebraska at all. The only thing, it's almost as though there is a competition on the coaching staff during press conferences to say hard work by the staff and hard work by the team more times in a press conference. Like, this is not a walk in the park. This is not Scott Frost's program that you're going to come back into. If it was too much for Xavier Betts last year, is it something where he's going to get in and be like, okay, you know what? This is more than I want to try to handle. I think he can. I know he can. When he applies himself, he is scary good. He is Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase good.
I've heard two arguments on the Xavier Betts thing. One is, you know what? He screwed up. He's a guy that doesn't necessarily love football. Good riddance. I hope he finds a home for himself and that he eventually wakes up. The other one is, you know what? I was so happy that people gave me an opportunity, a second, a third chance. And why not take a chance on talent and see if it really, I understand that and all coaches say this, they want guys that love football. And there were times where it seemed like Xavier didn't necessarily love the game.
Yeah.
And we've all had friends like that. You probably have, that you grew up with and you go, man, if you ever applied yourself, do you know how good you could be at pretty much anything you want? Because you're so talented, and they're, you know what? I'd just rather smoke weed or whatever. Well, we grew up with guys like that.
That was Keyshawn Johnson Jr.
And by the way, I'm not implying that was Xavier Betts.
That was Keyshawn Johnson Jr.
That was great. That was Keyshawn Johnson Jr. And a lot of other guys, by the way. Randy Gregory probably struggled with that at times.
Rumor had it that him and a coach. But, anyway,
I think he's worth a flyer, and you have the conversation. And if he in fact is coming back to Nebraska, he's coming back with a lot of talent. You would wonder about his conditioning. Like, he's probably not going to be football ready. He hasn't played since, early 2022?
Yeah, I think it was 2 or 3 games in. But that's where Corey Campbell comes in. It just is. And if he's in not great condition and January 23rd is on campus and he is a student at the University of Nebraska, then that means between January 23rd and the middle of March, so he's got the better part of 8 weeks, that Corey Campbell has to get him into spring football practice shape. And then he's got another 6 months, 4 months to get him into game one against who are we playing? Not Colorado.
It's Minnesota.
Minnesota. I know it's on the road.
Yeah, two Big Ten teams to start the season is weird.
Well, no, Big Ten, Pac-12, but two Power 5 and
right.
on the road.
That's right.
So,
but two Power 5 schools to start the season.
Conditioning wise, whatever, he can come in 30 pounds overweight, and I think he'll be in game shape by the time.
Let's face it, it seems like a long shot. You rarely see a guy that has such promise and great promise. I mean, I remember the run against Northwestern. I was like, wow, did you see that?
Yeah.
He just ran away from me. He's a track star. And last check, Matt Rule likes guys a lot like that. But he's had some struggles off the field. You wonder where he is. But if you talk to him and you think, man, he's finally figured it out, he's ready to go. Well, and absolutely, you pull the trigger on that guy.
And that's the thing. And from what you're talking about, from you know what, he had his chance, he walked away, blah, blah, blah. Forget him. I don't ever buy that, because when I got out of high school, I was 17 years old. When I started at the University of Nebraska, I was 17 years old. When I flunked out of the University of Nebraska because I was an immature, little know-it-all jerk, I was 17 years old. I wasn't ready. And when, Xavier Betts got here and got into it, it may have been something where he's like, you know what? I'm not sure this is what I want to do. And a year goes by, so you mature, you get away from it, you get a different perspective on life. Maybe something in your personal life changes to where, whether it's a long lost family member, a relationship with an older mentor or whatever. And you're like, hey, you know what? I want to do this again. By all means, he deserves every chance in the world to be able to come back. And bottom line is, if you can bring somebody with that much talent into your program, by all means do it.
There were some receivers who did complain at times in the Scott Frost regime that they weren't getting the coaching that they necessarily wanted all the time. Warner ends up at Kansas State. I mean, I understand he's a walk-on, but he had a nice career toward the end of it at Kansas State. And there were some other guys that complained that they weren't getting some of the coaching that they thought they needed. I don't know that that's true or not true. Well, or if Xavier is in that category at all, if it was just he didn't, he was burnt out, like we heard.
At the end of the day, the coaching staff that came with Scott Frost was a coaching staff that had a couple of years of experience at a mid-level school.
Yeah.
They weren't ready for the prime time. That was painfully obvious.
And I don't think that's going to be the case, even though we do sometimes do a check, a double take, if you will, with some of the guys that have been hired by Matt Rule and think, man, that guy's really young. And
Garrett McGuire comes to mind.
Garrett McGuire is very young. He's 24 years old. The salaries, by the way, were announced. The salaries were announced this week. It's a $7 million pool. Marcus Satterfield will be the highest paid among the assistants, offensive coordinator, $1.4 million. Nebraska's never had a guy make $1 million ever on their coaching staff as an assistant.
Yep.
Tom Osborne barely made $1 million. I don't know if he ever did crack $1 million as the head coach. Tony White is going to make $1 million. Evan Cooper is going to make $670,000, defensive back coach. You've got Ed Foley making $550,000. Terrence Knighton will make $400,000. Donovan Raiola, $325,000. Barthel, $285,000. And Corey Campbell will make $450,000.
I have Corey Campbell at $325,000, but
maybe I could be wrong.
I could be wrong.
I wrote these down.
I may have copied Donovan Raiola's because they're the same. But the one caveat that I kept trying to find it, the length of the contracts. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong here, my understanding is that Donovan Raiola's contract is for 1 year.
Wow.
It is not for 2.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
That is very interesting.
We'll have to ask Evan Bland if that actually is the case. But like I said, I swear that I read that somewhere, and that was the case. But
by the way, there's a couple other coaches. In fact, 3 others.
Yep.
Bob, I want to say it's Wagger, but I don't know. It's not Wagner. There's no N in it.
I would think it's Wager, but
It could be Wager.
Yeah.
And then you've got Garrett McGuire, and you've got Rob Dvorak, who will be the linebackers coach. McGuire will be the wide receivers coach, and Wager, if it is pronounced that way, the tight end coach.
Yep.
But obviously Garrett, McGuire, and Wager both have Texas connections. Wager, a high-profile Texas high school coach, makes you think, along with McGuire, they're trying to get back in Texas. And obviously, Rule has big-time connections there already.
And, oh, by the way, Matt Rule hired a chief of staff. And that chief of staff is Dr. Susan Elza.
I saw that.
Who was the athletic director of the University Interscholastic League, which is essentially the group that runs all Texas high school athletics. Don't tell me Texas is not going to be the biggest part of the dartboard,
right,
along with Pennsylvania and that New Jersey East Coast area where they've had so much success, and they just know the area. I mean, realistically, I would not be surprised to see 2/3 of every class come from 200-mile radius around Philadelphia, maybe a little bit further out into Pennsylvania, the state of Texas, and the state of Nebraska.
Well, yeah, I think they're going to get into Florida as well.
I think so as well, but I just think those are going to be the 3 biggest areas that they hit.
Well, I think it was a Tom Osborne philosophy. You lock up the 500-mile radius, and that was one of the first things they concentrated in. For sure, Nebraska. They want to lock up Nebraska, and there's more and more really good players from the state of Nebraska. But the 500-mile radius, if you can dominate that again, and it's become more difficult because Iowa's gotten better and Missouri's getting better, and Kansas and Kansas State have woken up. So it's more difficult than it has been. Lock up the 500-mile radius, then cherry pick the best players from Texas, Florida. I still think they'll get into California. Certainly, you mentioned New Jersey and Philadelphia. Those are going to be places that they have connections. So you definitely will hit those. But we'll see if they can get back to I think this might be the best on paper recruiting operation we've seen since, wait for it, Bill Callahan.
That was a machine.
Bill Callahan, you may not have liked the coaching. Those guys could recruit, and they took it very seriously, and he was a grinder in recruiting. I think Marlon Lucky alone got 1,500 letters from him, handwritten. He and Ndamukong Suh, obviously the best player we've had, was a Bill Callahan recruit. I think from a recruiting standpoint, they're going to get back to that type of work ethic, which Bo Pelini didn't have, which Mike Riley thought he had, but he didn't have. It's going to be that type of recruiting operation. Now, if they can coach on top of it, you got something.
That's the whole thing. And can they coach? Can they develop? The only thing that you can make a prediction on whether or not they can is past experience. And last time I checked, they've got 7 years of experience of the people that have worked in Matt Rule's quote-unquote program and the way he does things in college football, and they've been pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So, it's exciting. It's fun. We should also mention that one of the first stops not one of, the first stop Matt Rule made Friday on the first day that coaches could contact recruits and visit them again. We deciphered his emoji text or a tweet. I did immediately. I'm like, I'm flying to the mountains, and then I'm flying to a place that has got cactus, and then I'm going to go see a 5-star.
Right. His name is Dylan Raiola.
His name is Dylan Raiola.
And he's pretty good. You would like to think that Nebraska is still in it for the son of a All-American center that played at Nebraska.
Explain this. I get it. We live in a world of whiplash of things. Like to your portrayal of Nebraska fans when Walter Roush said, "Hey, I'm coming to Nebraska," and then he said, "Hey, I'm going to Oklahoma." And what I don't understand is just because Dylan Raiola, who, by the way, his father is a multimillionaire because he played 13 years in the NFL. Yep. The young man is not hurting for cash. Okay.
I'm guessing that's correct.
I get it. He went to the national championship game, but simply because he went to the game, all of a sudden, all these crystal ball predictions, which were still probably way too early when he decommitted from Ohio State, they're like, oh, he's not going to Nebraska now. He went to the national title. He's going to Georgia.
You allow me to go to the national title game, I'm going to the national title game. And if Georgia invites me, I'm going.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad program to play for. By the way, they've won 2 straight national titles.
Little caveat and I get it. Georgia's going to be a huge player in this. They did not take a quarterback in their 2023 recruiting class. I don't know what's there right now. I just know that a quarterback is not a member of this current class, which means if he does go to Georgia and they agree to not recruit other quarterbacks, which Ohio State promised him and then went ahead and recruited other quarterbacks anyway, to me, that's a huge deal for him. But it also would worry me a little bit. You're the number 1 player in the country. Best quarterback. People are talking, you're the next Trevor Lawrence. You're the next, I'm not going to say his name in Cleveland just because I don't think he should be in the NFL. I think he should be banned and done. I don't care if the lawsuits were out. I'm not going to say his name. I don't like it.
Refute. Okay.
But
you're not going to say his name?
No. If Dylan Raiola is afraid of competition, which the way it's been portrayed, if you try to recruit another quarterback, I'm not coming there. Really? Then I would think you're lacking a little confidence.
I'm not sure that was all of it, but maybe we can get the breakdown. Evan Bland follows recruiting. He writes a lot about recruiting for the Omaha World Herald. He knows a lot about it. He's written about Dylan Raiola. So he'd be a good guy to ask about some of these things related to him and other recruiting stories that we'll talk about. Mike Melby there, Tom Stevens here. Together we do a show called Husker Rewind. That's what this show is, Mike.
It is.
Every Sunday from 5 to 7.
Nutrition Authority presents Fusion 30, an ultra-clean protein powder ideal for anyone wanting to look better, feel better, or perform better. Fusion 30 can only be found at Nutrition Authority. Stop in today for a free sample, visit with a certified nutritionist, and get better than internet pricing. For store info, visit mynutritionauthority.com.
Landmark Implement, your local John Deere dealership, is hosting their annual sprayer clinic at the Buffalo County Fairgrounds in Kearney, Nebraska, February 2nd and 3rd. Landmark Sprayer Clinic offers expansive equipment and technology training on different models of John Deere and Hagee sprayers. Learn about the newest technology, machine maintenance, spray tip selection, and more. We'll be offering free dicamba certification. Join us February 2nd and 3rd in Kearney. RSVP by calling your local Landmark location or at landmarkimp.com/events.
What are you doing, Sip? I thought the chickens could use some more light in their lives.
So you're building what exactly?
It's a motion-censored switchboard. Duh.
Are you sure you know what you're doing?
Of course.
Oh, God. Ow. Seems like a job for a professional.
Just one more wire. Yep, there you go, right there.
Don't be like Sip. Call Joe at Ambition Electric for any of your electric needs at 402-217-3415.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric is the call I make when I have a need for plumbing services. Whether it's for my home or office, if I need a repair to a water heater, softener, or even my garbage disposal, I know I can count on Action to help. In one simple call, their amazing customer service team promptly schedules a service call, often getting to my needs within a day. Action delivers honest quality services we can count on. To learn more, visit actionlincoln.com.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Back to the Sunday Rewind with Tom and Mike.
That's old school.
Yeah?
Old school like the old school.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back, Husker Rewind. Tom Stevens and Mike Melby, both in our playoff jerseys, ready to go.
I don't have any jerseys. I just have a Cowboys shirt.
You don't have a Cowboys jersey?
I've never been a jersey guy. I'm like, if I'm on the team and I'm playing, I'm going to get a jersey.
That's right.
Even when I was a kid, I didn't want a jersey unless I was actually on the team.
Evan, do you own any jerseys?
I was gifted a Peyton Manning Broncos jersey. I'm a Broncos fan, so yeah, I do have one of those laying around. I have an old Terrell Davis one from when I was in like, high school too.
Nice.
So
You're still a Broncos fan even after this year.
well, yeah. It's been rough. At this point, we're just sort of waiting for Patrick Mahomes to age out, I guess. So we got like another 10 years before things become relevant again. I wish I could say that Denver was playing for a draft pick this year, but that's going to Seattle too. So it was a year that happened, though. I will say I was not very emotionally invested.
Well, I got to ask though, Evan, if Sean Payton becomes your head coach, you have to have some hope.
Well, okay, but Russell Wilson's still the quarterback, and he's still against the cap, and they still don't have a ton of draft capital. So that would help. Certainly, Nathaniel Hackett did not hack it this last year. That was painfully obvious. They've cycled through a lot of coaches in the last handful of seasons, so that would be a nice piece to have. But again, there's so much other stuff they need to do to build that thing. So that'd be a great start, but I'm not, buying the Super Bowl tickets at this point.
Oh, by the way, would you be happy with Harbaugh? I mean, there's still rumors that he may not be Michigan's head coach. Do you think he'll be at Michigan next year?
I think so. I mean, we saw this last year, right? When he flirted with the Vikings and kind of had a look to go there and didn't happen. And, I don't know. It's hard to kind of read the reports and see. It sounds like money is a big issue. So, if Denver is willing to pay him or whoever, $15 million a year or whatever the crazy number is, then maybe he leaves. But I just don't see it. I think he ends up back at Michigan. He's got a good thing going there. The people still want him to be there. I think his family's all around there. So unless you're really chasing the money, I just don't see why you'd give that thing up. So my money would be on him being back with the Wolverines next year.
Evan Bland from the Omaha World Herald joining us here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com for Husker Rewind. Evan, do you have whiplash from Walter Roush and his decommitment? And what are your thoughts on that whole thing and transfer portal guys? Because there's not a letter of intent for him to sign. They just actually have to show up and enroll in class. And obviously he's going to enroll down in Norman now.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw that he had flipped, I did a legitimate double take. Like, you're scrolling on your Twitter feed or whatever, and you look and you see it again. It's like, whoa, seriously? Because he was somebody I spoke with before he committed, and at the time he was talking about Nebraska, saying things like "we." He was including himself as we, that they were going to make the haters, be alerted about how things could change in his last year. And he sounded to me absolutely like a guy who was all in, who thought that, initially before his visits that Oklahoma might be the place for him. And then when he got to the coaches in Nebraska and kind of got to take the tour and see the city, that he had changed his mind. So, obviously in the two or 3 days, since that time, something changed for him, and it's widely speculated that it's NIL related, money related, and that very well could be. But it's hard to say what kind of goes into a person's head when you make that kind of an about face. I think it's a little jarring because it comes from a guy who has been a 4-year starter in college. Like, it's not altogether shocking to see that from a high school kid. I mean, you see decommitments and things with coaching changes and signing day flips all the time, but it's just not been as prevalent in the portal, in part because there's not much of a history with the portal. But it's a reminder that just because you commit out of the portal, like you said, it's no guarantee that you still end up there, because he needed to enroll in classes and get things started for that to become official. So even though the Nebraska Twitter handle put out his name in a cool looking graphic, that did not make things official. And, clearly Oklahoma did not stop recruiting. ABC, always be closing, or recruiting, however you want to say it. And they were able to flip that thing. So, it's sort of just the nature of the beast. If you're a Nebraska fan who's smarting from it, you can kind of rationalize it by saying he just had 1 year left and he was going to be hurt in the spring. But there's no doubt. I mean, a guy who's been a multi-year left tackle who would have allowed someone like a Turner Corcoran or Teddy Prohaska to either move inside or move to the other side, they don't have that option now. So, I mean, it's a gut punch for sure, but it's also just sort of the reality of college athletics right now.
He's Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald talking Nebraska football recruiting. Give me a current grade for Matt Rule and the staff, knowing where they were when they took over for Scott Frost and Mickey Joseph, to where they are and where they need to go.
From a recruiting standpoint, or just everything?
Yeah, just mostly from recruiting, because that's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah, I'd go somewhere in the B plus range. I think. They missed on a few portal guys, I think, that they were after, and Matt Rule has said a couple of the in-state players got away out of the 2023 class. Ben Bramer went to Iowa State and so on. So, I think that there were some guys that they felt like they could have held on to or flipped late that didn't quite happen. But, the thing that strikes me with how they've recruited is, I mean, certainly they've added some high level talent guys, but I think they also added a number of players who weren't necessarily high traffic recruits. The North Dakota offensive lineman that they flipped, Jason Machachok, Bryce Turner, who was a 0-star out of Texas, Jalen Lloyd out of the Omaha area, who was set to go into track. Like, there are just a number of guys that they saw something in, whether that's character traits, athletic ability, speed, whatever it might be. And they have such a conviction that they're going to be able to develop those guys into players. And I think that's what stood out to me, because again, you're a new staff that comes in, you want to make an impression, and they didn't care about recruiting stars, and they didn't care that some of these guys maybe were FCS, bound for the FCS level or whatever. And they went about their business because they've done it before. And you look what they did at Temple and Baylor, and there are many success stories in similar situations. So, how this class turns out, who knows? Some of these guys may really bloom and turn into future NFL draft picks and things like that. But to me, the thing that stood out again was this staff led by Matt Rule has a vision for the kind of player and the kind of person that they want. And they're just not afraid to go out and get those guys. And, the way that they were able to close this class with, I think to this point, 31 newcomers in this group, most of whom they recruited on their own out of high school or out of the portal. There's a blend of vision and sort of this grinder mentality that I think has really brought this class together. So it's been impressive to see.
Evan Bland from the Omaha World Herald joining us here on the Husker Rewind on 93.7 The Ticket. Evan, we have, what do we got? About a week left before classes start. We can still grab guys out of the portal. Do you think we will? A couple of former Georgia players are in the portal that we have offered. Do you think there's going to be another portal addition or two?
I think there'll be an addition of some kind. Yeah. I mean, it's been wild, right? Just the last couple of weeks with the portal ads and finishing out signing day last month. But the way I see it, there were still, as of this moment, 4 guys in play that we know of. The 2 transfer possibilities that you alluded to were both from Georgia, incidentally. Brett Seether, the tight end, and then MJ Sherman, the former 5-star edge rusher. And both of these guys sort of have similar stories, right? Like they're both playing behind really, really talented people in really loaded position groups. And they're just looking to, honestly get on the field and find some playing time somewhere else. And those are both positions of need for Nebraska. So we'll see if either or both of those guys end up joining. Their deadline essentially is January 23rd for the start of classes. They need to be enrolled and attending if they want to be involved in spring practice. So I think we'll see some resolution there pretty soon. And then you also have a couple of late 2023 offers to these high school seniors, and their timeline is a little bit different. They can go all the way out to February 1st, which is the traditional signing period from way back when. So you've got Ismael Smith Flores, who is sort of a receiver tight end hybrid out of Texas. He was the former player of Bob Wager, the tight end coach that Nebraska has hired. So there's a connection there. He's set to visit next weekend. And then they offered a lineman out of California last night, Sua Lafotu, I believe is how you say his name. And he is a defensive lineman who's looking to squeeze in a visit here in the middle of next week. So you may still see a little bit more portal action. I believe Wednesday is the last day for players to enter the portal. So you may see a few more names enter that mix, and maybe someone Nebraska gets involved with. But it's definitely winding down. And right now, I think those are the 4 names you're looking at least over the next week or so, to see whether they decide to jump in the boat. And then for the high schoolers, whether they decide to visit and how those trips go.
How fascinated, Evan, are you with the Xavier Betts story and where he might land?
Yeah, that was a surprise. I mean, when he went into the transfer portal last week, I don't know that anybody expected that. I mean, his story, you think back to the spring when, he was coming off a season in 2021 where he was the second leading receiver on the team, and it really felt like he was ascending into more of a major role. And then in March, abruptly decides to leave the team. And it was made pretty clear by some people that we talked to that it wasn't a disciplinary sort of situation, but he just sort of wanted to move on and do something different. Maybe there was a little bit of football burnout, or his ambitions were elsewhere. And so he left the team. And, typically guys in that situation, you don't really hear from in a football capacity after that. And so for him to put his name back in the portal and sort of signal that he was interested in returning, it's fascinating. We know that Matt Rule and company are interested. They're sort of kicking the tires, and certainly Betts obviously is interested if he's back in the portal. So we'll see how that comes together. Anyone who's seen him play, of course, knows that he has elite speed and can be a playmaker in the field. And it's at a position too where, if you're Nebraska, you're still looking to reload at receiver, where you have really only Marcus Washington and Alante Brown, or your returning producers. You add a couple guys in the portal like Josh Fleeks and Billy Kemp. But if you can bring in a guy of Betts's skill level and skill set, I think you absolutely do that. You probably do it with an understanding that, there are going to be some stipulations about off-field behavior and probably a lot of communication about what's going on in your personal life and things like that. But it's absolutely a situation, especially with an in-state kid, where if he's interested in coming back and willing to work with Nebraska and try to find an amenable solution, you absolutely have to give it a try. So I think from a football perspective, it makes sense, but also from a personal perspective, you just root for a kid who maybe felt like he was moving on and now he's coming back. And, I think history has shown that football has helped him excel in the classroom and other areas of life. So you got to, root for a kid like Xavier Betts in that way too.
Absolutely. Evan, you not only cover recruiting and football for the World Herald, you also cover Nebraska baseball. Will Bolt coming up on the season here in, gosh, what are we? Probably only 4 weeks away from opening day. Nebraska baseball currently has 46 guys listed on their roster. Small problem. They can only have 39. What in the world is going on? I mean, obviously, fall ball was tryouts. Things are going to sort themselves out here. Any thoughts on, I guess it's kind of a two-part question. Will Bolt's desire to bring in that many kids, and then what do you think he's going to do? Are there going to be some that he helps get into a JUCO or to where they could possibly come back? How do you think he's going to handle this roster? It's pretty large right now.
Yeah, I mean, right. That's sort of the first step as they assemble their team and everyone's back and they're starting to figure out roles. I mean, you have to have those tough conversations pretty early on because, like you mentioned, there are going to be 7 guys that were with the team through the fall that won't be there once the season gets rolling. And you have to make that decision sooner than later, in part because, like you said, you want to do right by those guys and get them involved somewhere else so they can catch on with the junior college team or just maybe simply transfer somewhere else. You kind of see how it works. It's just sort of the tough part of the business. And you see it all the time in the SEC and a lot of the other, major baseball conferences where it's at its root, it's a numbers game where you bring in as much talent as you can, you let it play out and see how it comes together. We'll kind of see what that looks like for Nebraska. But as far as the way that they sort of reset the roster this offseason, and they did, flipping essentially half the roster, I think one thing that they really are valuing, and we'll see how it translates to the field, is maturity and experience. And they would tell you, the coaches would, that one of the things that held them back last year was they were a younger team. And especially in this current climate of college baseball and college athletics, where you still have so many guys taking advantage of their pandemic years and sticking around longer than ever, you got to be a little bit older. You got to have a little veteran savvy. And they didn't really have a lot of that. And I think they would also tell you that they didn't have a lot of peer leadership. I mean, you think about that great 2021 Nebraska team and how they were a win away from the super regionals. They had some dynamic personalities, whether that was Spencer Schwellenbach or Jackson Hallmark or Cade Povich. You can kind of go down the line, Mojo Hecke. And last year's team just didn't really have it. There was a lot of quieter guys, a lot of role players, not a ton of guys who were going to maybe hold everybody else accountable and walk the walk. And they feel like they added some players like that too. So I think they're really banking on that maturity, on that sort of intangible leadership sort of quality as well. And we'll see how it plays out, because I think, again, you mentioned we're about a month away from opening day, so to speak. Those first 3 weeks are going to be major for Nebraska. When you go to South Alabama, San Diego in the opening weekend, and then you have that sort of SEC Big Ten challenge where you get a shot at Ole Miss and Vanderbilt. We're going to learn a lot about Nebraska early on, and this next month's going to be really important for them as they figure out their rotation, their lineup, and everything else.
Well, and you mentioned guys last year that were kind of the leaders of the team that were a little quieter. Max Anderson and Bryce Matthews are two that come to mind. Those guys are going into their junior seasons. I personally think both of them are going to have fantastic seasons. I know that's what Will Bolt is hoping. What are your thoughts with just those two?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the part that's nice for Nebraska as it's building its lineup is both of those guys are really versatile. I mean, we've seen Max Anderson at third base, but he can play second. He can play first. Bryce Matthews was the shortstop last year, but I know they last summer wanted him to play some outfield, so he'd have a chance to maybe make an impact out there. So those are some versatile guys. They're good people. I think you talk to either one of those guys, and they really care about the program. They care about each other and that sort of thing. And they thrived in that 2021 group when they just had to be role players and sort of take their spots and handle their own business. They did really well. And, I think they would tell you that in that bigger role last year, you did feel a little bit more pressure. And especially in the lineup where Nebraska struggled to hit. I think from a batting average standpoint, they were about as poor as they've been since the 1970s. When you don't have a lot of protection, I mean, that's tough. And you're going to press and you're going to do, try to do too much and whatever. So I think a lot of it's going to be do they have some more protection in the lineup? Can they go 6, 7, 8, 9 deep to where you can't just work around Max Anderson or Bryce Matthews, but that you have other quality bats in there. So to me, that's really one of the stories of the season is, you think about the struggles last year, they had a lot of injuries at pitching, but I think the rotation and the bullpen actually did pretty well. It was the hitting side and in some ways the defense that held them back. So to me, that's where I'm going to start when I'm looking at this team is, are they a little bit more dynamic? Are they a little bit more versatile in the way that they can score? And if they are, then I think we can start having a conversation about, just how far this team can go in 2023.
Well, about a month away, and I haven't told you this, Evan, but we expect you on the show once a week when the season starts. So get ready.
Give me a call, Tom, anytime. I'm hanging out.
Yeah, he's the best. Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. Thanks, Evan. Appreciate
it.
Thanks,
guys.
Yep, there you go.
Thanks, Evan.
Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald talking Husker baseball.
I'm excited.
The hitting was so bad after that great 2021 season. They recruit in a way where they don't care about rankings.
Well, yeah, it's kind of what Matt Rule's doing. Yeah, his first commit to Nebraska is a 0-star.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, he's now a 3-star, but still.
And we'll have Lance Harvell on the show a lot, the Nebraska assistant baseball coach, once the season gets going, I think as well. And his recruiting philosophy, the guy eats and sleeps recruiting. And he's really good at it. And he has a profile. It's kind of similar to Rule in that way. I mean, they just see something in a guy and they know where they can plug him in and they recruit that way. They really don't care about what other teams think about that guy. No. I really think last year was an anomaly for Husker baseball.
Oh,
I hope I'm right.
I do too. I like Will Bolt. I like the coaching staff he's put together, and I think this year is going to be a big turnaround for him.
It is a tough schedule. It looks like a really tough schedule, but every year, you want something that Darren Erstad did all the time. He played a tough schedule. I think they're going to continue to do that under Will Bolt. Let's get to break and finish out with whatever we finish out with.
Tailgate time.
Oh, that's right. We got to do the recipes. Mike's got a couple of really good Super Bowl recipes that he wants to share with you up until Super Bowl time. So the next few weeks, we'll do it. Vikings not looking good. It's crunch time. Couple minutes left. 1:51 left to go. The Vikings down to the Giants, 31-24. It's 4th and 8.
Yikes.
Kirk Cousins, though, don't worry, Vikings fans. He's known for pressure-packed situations. He's really good at this. Should we stay through this play?
You should. I don't know. If they don't get it, are you going to cry on air?
Yeah. I will cry. 4th and 8. Kirk Cousins drops back to pass, and he's short of the first down.
Why would you
he threw it 4 yards short of the first down.
I've never figured out that play.
What are you doing?
I never figured that play
Now
out.
I'm angry. I am going to cry, and I'll be crying when we come back. Nice, Kirk. The Vikings have been eliminated. Way to go. No more timeouts. Get to break. Come back with more. It's Husker Rewind. He's Mike Melby. I'm Tom Stevens.
Meeting your goal of having a healthy diet has never been easier than with the Venue at Home Healthy Living subscription. Chef-inspired meals that are health conscious and delivered right to your door every week. All you have to do is heat and eat. We offer delicious entrees, gluten-free pastas, fresh rice bowls, soups, salads, and more. Build your own package as a subscription to receive meals every week, designed to help you meet your dietary goals. Order your custom healthy meal package today at venueathome.net.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club or space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about a margarita club? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge and join the best club in town. 10 flavors of margaritas like Maui Wowie, burnt pineapple, and mango tango. Try all 10 of them and receive your own souvenir margarita glass. Make it your new Monday night tradition. $4 margaritas and $4 taco baskets. Grab the crew and head on over. Monday nights or any night. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
This is the Sunday Rewind on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to the Sunday Rewind. I'm Mike Melby. That is Tom Stevens.
I'm still mad, Mike.
You should.
I'm not going to cry. I'm just mad.
Hey, a little tip for all you offensive coordinators out there. If it's 4th down and the game is on the line, whatever the yardage to gain is to get a first down, don't run any pass routes that do not get to the sticks.
That's not on
what
the OC.
What the hell?
That is not on the OC. That's on Kirk Cousins there. And he's never been known as a guy that makes a big play
Yeah,
when
but
it really, really matters.
If he doesn't have a guy that is in front of the sticks to throw to, he doesn't throw to a guy that's not going to get the
Don't
first
throw
down.
it short of the sticks. Kirk Cousins, get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Hey, real quick, Mike, get off my lawn. There's an Iowa fan that was like dogging Nebraska fans because Walter Roush committed to Nebraska. So to that Iowa fan that was like all over Twitter and trolling everybody and saying, why would you want to go to a dumpster fire of a football program school like Nebraska when you could have gone to Iowa where we've got more NFL linemen or offensive linemen in the NFL than anybody else? Hey, Iowa fan, guess what? You're a two-time loser with Walter Roush.
Get off my lawn.
All righty.
What do you want to talk about going out?
Tailgate time. So we're going to try and do this, just a quick little segment on some tailgate recipes leading up to the Super Bowl. We'll see how it goes. Then we may bring it back once we get to Nebraska football season. But I'm going to start off with a drink, first of all. It's one I created when I was bartending out at Haymarket Park. It is called a Bad Habit. So in a 12-ounce-ish size glass, fill it up with ice, add 1 shot of vodka. I prefer Rika.
What's Rika?
It's a vodka.
Okay.
It's made in Iceland. And I put in 1 shot of peach schnapps. I prefer De Kuyper.
Is it better than Bartles or what was it?
Yes.
That's the worst vodka ever made.
Oh, Barton.
Barton.
Yeah, it's
Barton.
Oh, garbage.
We used to drink it in college.
Yep.
It would literally make you sick on the first sip.
Yeah, no.
Don't drink
Rika
that.
is fantastic. Rika to me is as good as Belvedere.
Okay.
Or Goose.
All right.
So, but you do a shot of vodka, a shot of peach schnapps, and then take a Sprite, Sierra Mist, which is going away, or 7-Up or whatever, and fill the cup up about 3/4 of an inch from the top. Then you're going to add a tablespoon of lime juice and 2 teaspoons of a red fruit juice, cranberry if you like it. I don't. I use apple raspberry. And then you put a splash of peach schnapps on the top. This is more of a summertime drink. So once Nebraska football season rolls around, and you can like expand this and make it into a batch. This is crisp. It's refreshing. And with 2+ shots of alcohol in there, you're going to be very, very happy before the game.
Yeah. That sounds
garnish,
really good.
Garnished with a lime wedge. Now, the recipe food-wise, I actually made these last night because it kind of warmed up enough to where I could get the grill out. They're my garlic parm wings. I'm a big fan of garlic parmesan. So what you do is you take 20 pounds, 20 wings or so, about
Why
2
not
pounds.
20 pounds?
It could be. And I always stab them with a fork before I marinate them. It kind of helps
So it
the marinade
seeps in.
helps seep in. The marinade is a 1/2 cup of Chardonnay or whatever white wine. I don't like using sweet wines when I do marinades. 2 tablespoons of low sodium soy sauce, 1/3 of a cup of ponzu sauce, which is similar to a soy. It's just got a different flavor to it. 2 teaspoons of salt. I use ground pink Himalayan salt. 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, and then 2 to 3 chopped garlic cloves. Let that marinate for 3 to 4 hours. With the alcohol in there, you don't want to let it break down too much further than that. Then take your wings, throw them on the grill. Cook. As you're cooking them, take the brush and use that marinade and soak them as you're cooking them. Meanwhile, make your sauce for the wings. It is a 1/2 cup of freshly grated Parmesan, 1/2 teaspoon of ground pink Himalayan salt, 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 4 tablespoons of butter, 3 to 4 cloves of chopped garlic. You're going to add 1 tablespoon of the EVOO to a pan, put in the chopped garlic. Let it kind of saute and get a little translucent to it for about 5 minutes. Then add the butter, the rest of the EVOO, and then you're going to sit there and let that melt and become just some goodness with that little bit of salt in there as well. And then once the wings are done, put them in a bowl, pour that sauce over the top of them, and then take that freshly grated Parmesan, dump it on top of it, toss it again. Garlic parm wings are great, but when you do it with this marinade, that garlic parm taste is fantastic, but man, the meat has got so much flavor in it.
Yeah.
Those are my garlic parm wings. They are fantastic.
Guy Fieri has nothing on you. You could host a cooking show.
I would love it.
I think you'd be really good at it.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
I like diners, drive-in, and dives, but I don't like the fact that Guy likes everything. I mean, you can't taste everything. I mean, even if you know the food is good because you've had it before and you've been there before, it doesn't turn out the same every single time.
I know.
That drives me crazy that he thinks everything is awesome. But I do like that show.
Oh, I do too. I like Guy's Grocery Games. The cooking show. I always like the ones where it's Guy and he's like in his backyard. When the pandemic hit and they were doing everything all remote and everything else, that was fantastic. So.
I'm going to be mad. I will not cry. I promise I will not cry on the way home today. But the Vikings do fall to the Giants at home. The Vikings were a 3-point favorite. Never felt good about it. I've told you they were a farce all season long. And now they prove it when it really matters. Kirk Cousins throws 4 yards short of the sticks. He needs 8. He needs 8 yards. It's 4th and 8, and he throws it way short of the sticks. So they lose 31-24. The Dolphins closer than expected today with the Bills 34-31. And now we have the Ravens and the Bengals. You said you liked the Ravens, but
that was. But I didn't. I had
Lamar's
heard
not
that,
playing.
I had heard early in the
And
week
Huntley's
Lamar was
not
probably
playing.
going to play. Yeah, so that
and
makes it even
Huntley's
worse.
not playing either. But you never know. I mean, some weird things happen during playoff
Washington
time.
beat the Cowboys last week with a guy who'd never taken a snap in an NFL game.
No.
So there you go.
I'm rooting for the Bengals. I'm going to see Joe Burrow play well, and I'm a Zach Taylor fan. Obviously, former Nebraska quarterback. They came so close to winning the Super Bowl last year, so I'm definitely rooting for those guys.
Absolutely. And I'm going to be rooting for my Cowboys. It's going to be a little bit of a war tomorrow at home because Tracy is a huge Buccaneers fan. So I envision things will be flying across the basement as we're watching that game.
Is it the most amazing story in sports history? It's got to be up there. That Tom Brady, not only has he won 6 Super Bowls, he's going to be playing at the age of 46 next year. I mean, he's not going away anytime soon.
Maybe somebody's got to sign him.
He's getting younger, I think.
I think might be.
I think somebody's going to sign him.
Is it Benjamin Button all over again?
I think he's getting. I mean, if you've seen pictures of Brady 5 years ago, I think he looks younger now.
I think he's going to sign with the Raiders.
The Raiders, or I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay makes a run at it next year. But the Raiders would be fun. I'd like to see.
I would
Raiders.
actually like that.
That would be fun because I already, kind of hate Brady. So, and I hate the Raiders. So that'd be perfect.
There you go.
We're out.
Have a great week.
We'll be back next week. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens, The Rewind, coming back next Sunday at 5.
See you.
A new year means new goals and upgrading, but that doesn't only apply to health and fitness. Mullen Motors can get you into a new vehicle right now and get your